are go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to HCD's Office Hours for ESG. My name is Anthony Zepeda, and I will be your moderator for today's Office Hours. We're going to hold for just a couple minutes for more of our colleagues to join us in today's session. As always, in the meantime, I want to invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat with your name and the region you represent, and we will begin at about 10:02. So until then, go ahead and jump in the chat. Hello, everyone. We are going to wait about another minute longer to let more of our colleagues join us for today's session. If you're just logging on, welcome. And please take time to introduce yourself, your name, and the region you represent in the chat. We will begin in 1 minute. Okay, I think we are ready to get started. Again, welcome to this week's Office Hours for ESG. My name is Anthony Zepeda, and I'm today's moderator. If you just joined us, please go to the chat and introduce yourself with your name and the region you represent. And as a reminder, this office hour session is being recorded for public record. And as a secondary reminder, HCD policy does not allow for AI bots or AI assistants in our public meetings. So if you have one active, please go ahead and disable it, as we will be required to remove you from the meeting if not. Next slide. And here we go. We're going to go over the basic ground rules real quick. For those of you who attend regularly, you're familiar with these. Here's how to ask a question. All questions must be submitted in the question box, the Q&A box. If you look on your ribbon on Zoom, if you look down, you'll see the Q&A box right there. Go ahead and, when you have a question, go ahead and click on that, enter your name and the region you represent or the organization you represent, and put your question there. The team will read your questions out loud at the end of the presentation, and we will also provide answers throughout the presentation in the Q&A box. Along with our presenters, we have several HCD staff, including our ESG reps, our ESG specialists, and ESG management on board who can help answer the questions during the Q&A sessions. And we request that you don't put your questions in the chat, as they quickly get lost and we have a hard time tracking them. We realize that sometimes that happens, but if you put them in the chat, we request that you just jump over to the Q&A and copy and paste the question there. Next slide, please. And please note that these slides and this recording will be sent to all participants within approximately 2 weeks of today's session. In addition, all of our HCD ESG office hours sessions are kept on the ESG webpage under the resources tab. You can go there and access, I think all the way back to 24, the beginning of 24, and maybe even earlier. But we have tons of resources there, and always highly recommend that you visit our ESG webpage on a regular basis. Next slide, please. All right, getting into some of our updates. The 2024 ESG NOFA. We are continuing to review the funding applications. We've gotten through about half of them. And some of you have received notification that we are going to be awarding you. We anticipate having that process completed, with award announcements being announced in July of this year. So keep an eye out on your email for correspondence from us. For those of you who like to work ahead, and we always recommend that you have your legal team or your finance team take a look at the contract exhibits that we will be using for the standard agreements for the 2024 ESG contracts. They're currently available on the ESG webpage. So you can look ahead at any new updates, all of the standard language. And of course, we recommend looking at those because there are additional requirements as we move forward in the 2024 ESG NOFA cycle. Next slide, please. All right, here we are at annual performance reporting for ESG. For those of you that are new, we are required to conduct an annual performance reporting process for your ESG contracts. The period will span the fiscal years, I believe it is 22, 23, and we have sent out emails to all of our grantees that had contracts or do have active contracts for 23 or previous for 2022. It's a workbook part one, which simply identifies the projects that you'll be reporting on. And then there's workbook 2, which reflects the reimbursement data from federal sources as of May 12, 2025. Your records may show different totals due to more recent reimbursement. However, please use the data up to May 12, 2025 that will be on the workbooks. And just a note here, if this is new to you, this is something we do every year. And so, for instance, if you are awarded 2024 contracts this year, standard agreements, you will be reporting on those in 25 and 26. So even if a contract's closed out, for instance, the 2022s, we still have to report on it because it falls within the timeline. Any questions on those, please reach out to your representative over the NOFA inbox. We're happy to help. It's not a real difficult process. It's just one of those items that is required at a federal level and also at the HCD level. Next slide, please. Okay, getting to our 2023 grants. Wow, it's already there. It's already here. The expenditure deadline for the 2023 contracts is in August of this year. So let's get to spending money. And it's June. And June 17th, just a few weeks away, 80% of the contract must be expended by then. If you're already, if you've successfully spent, reach out to your grant representative for a certificate of completion and further instructions. If you're having trouble spending, also reach out to your grant representative over the NOFA inbox, and we can work with you and put together a plan to get those funds spent. Next slide, please. Oh, this is what we touch on. I'm going to go through the next 3 slides pretty quickly because we've touched on them, I think, for 6 weeks in a row. It has to do with the RFFs. Your contract language specifies that you're required to submit at least 1 RFF per quarter, and we recommend monthly. And if the deadline is missed, it is in your contract, a written action plan must be submitted, or corrective action plan. We're sending out letters this week for folks who haven't been able to submit an RFF yet. And also here, we highly recommend it. Reach out to us. We can help you put together a plan. We can work together to get this taken care of. We can even help you put together your first RFF. But it's imperative that if you have not submitted an RFF yet for your 2023 contract, that you get that submitted ASAP. Next slide, please. So as I said, we're going to go through this pretty quickly. The first RFF, full backup documentation is required for all line items on your detailed expense report. For rapid rehousing and homelessness prevention in particular, you must have approved policies and procedures. You must have full client files. And as applicable, please redact all personally identifying information, or PII. We would request that you maybe don't go crazy with the redaction in terms of sometimes we have trouble matching a rental agreement with a client because the address, everything, name, address has been redacted. So we don't know if it actually matches, and we have to request clarification for that. So if you need guidance, let us know. Next slide, please. And for your second RFF, a little bit easier on the requirements. The grantee, you choose 2 line items per component, and you you submit supporting documentation for those 2 line items. So best practices, if you are choosing those 2 line items, please highlight them so we know which line items we're trying to correlate with. Because sometimes we get, 50 plus line items and then only 2 client files, and we're trying to figure out, okay, which goes where. So the reasoning behind this is we want to pay you fast. We want to get the money into your community so you can deploy it. So once again, reach out if you need assistance. Next slide, please. I've already covered this one. Go ahead. Then next slide. And in terms of complete client files, we do have client file checklists for every component available on the ESG webpage, and your rep can also send you one. In terms of supporting documentation, what is required by HCD and HUD, and we are always happy to help there as well. We realize it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes, especially if you're new to this process, but just reach out. That's what we're here for. Next slide, please. Just goes into the same thing. Complete client files, some of the things that you'll need, for example, for rapid rehousing, rental lease agreements, copies of rental payments, VAWA addendum, lead-based paint notice, rent reasonableness certification, FMR certification, and client files by HMIS number, if possible. Next slide, please. And here are your team representatives, Sam, Giovanni, and myself. We also have the NOFA inbox, which is monitored Monday through Friday during normal business hours. If you can't reach one of us or you're not sure who to contact, you can send an email there. Next slide, please. And those are the updates. Did we have any questions at this point, Amanda? I will take that as a no. So let's jump in.
My mute button was stuck. No, there's no questions right
Okay, thank you. We need a little button for crickets, so it plays the cricket sound.
Yes.
You can just press that instead.
Wait, we have a raised hand.
Okay.
Hello. My name is Jared Mendez. I'm with Eastern Sierra Community Housing.
Hey,
And
Jared.
hey, how you doing? And I have a question about the 2023 grant. As far as the workbook for the APR, I did not receive an email on that, and I was wondering how would I go about getting, I guess, my email attached to those so I can get those email updates.
Did it go to anyone in your organization? Do you know?
Not that I know of. It would have went to my boss, Patricia. She's currently not in, she travels a lot.
Yeah.
But if I could figure out how to get like my name in there, that'd be perfect. That way I could
Okay.
get those emails and start working on the APRs.
Okay. It could be, Jared, that you don't have a contract that falls or a reimbursement or a contract that falls within the reporting period. It is only for those
Oh,
contracts that are active and have a
okay.
reimbursement within that period. But I'll double check, but I'm fairly certain that that's the case.
Oh, okay. Oh,
But
well,
we'll
that'd be
follow up
perfect.
after. I'll follow up with you directly afterwards.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Of course. And I was also curious too. I have one more question.
Yeah.
So I had emailed you about the RFF for our reimbursement, and you said that I'd have to go into eCivis to upload all the information and get the reimbursement done. How do I get it? How do I get that grant under my name so that way I can go into eCivis and do that? Because I only have the current 2024 grant that we applied for.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be on our follow-up items. I'll probably
Okay.
schedule a Teams meeting with you, and we can go over a few of these items because I realize you took these over relatively new, and you've been doing a bang-up job. But I know that information can be lacking sometimes as you're trying to get up to speed. So I'll help you with
Yeah.
that. Schedule a Teams meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, no
That's all
problem.
for me.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Good questions. Good questions. And if that's it, go ahead and jump to the next slide.
No, we have one question. Trisha asks, question about allowed expenditures for the ESG 2023 grant. For an emergency shelter, do appliances and furniture need to be made in USA? Are they subject to the Build America, Buy America restrictions? Any other restrictions?
Well, it's 2023 grant. Amanda, do you have a quick answer to that one?
I don't
Hmm.
believe they do because appliances aren't
I believe furniture
building anything.
and appliances do not fall under the renovation
Yeah,
um,
or repairs.
or repair.
So I don't believe they would fall under BABA.
Yeah, so it's our opinion at this time that no, they do not.
Yeah.
Anything else, Amanda?
Nope, that's it right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. And today we're
Well, I
oh
will,
no,
sorry,
go ahead.
Anthony.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you do purchase anything over the $10,000 cap, though, that will be subject to procurement. So just keep that in mind. I would suggest you try to keep it under the $10,000 cap. So if you are purchasing furniture or equipment, try to keep it under $10,000, or you are responsible for tracking it, and we are responsible for tracking it for the lifetime of the equipment, furniture, whatever it is. So highly suggest keeping it under $10,000. Okay, sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. Thank you. All right, today's office hour spotlight series session is in street outreach. And just a quick heads up for everyone, street outreach is fairly straightforward and simple. We have a video that we're going to play first and then a presentation, but this will be a very short office hours in terms of what we will be presenting. And now I will turn it over to Gio so we can see the introductory video that is available on the ESG webpage for street outreach.
All right, just give me one moment.
In this video, you'll learn about the street outreach component within the Emergency Solutions Grants Program, or ESG. But first, let's take a brief look at ESG itself. ESG is a federal grant program offered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. It provides much-needed funding so states, local governments, and territories can reduce the prevalence of homelessness, engage with individuals and families living on the street, and place them as soon as possible in quality temporary shelters that offer essential services. The California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, receives ESG funds directly from HUD and administers the state's annual ESG allocation. ESG assistance is flexible and can be used to support a variety of activities under 5 project types or components: homelessness prevention, emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, the Homeless Management Information System, or HMIS, and street outreach, which is what we'll talk about here. HUD defines street outreach as services that are designed to meet the immediate needs of those experiencing homelessness in unsheltered locations. This includes individuals and families whose primary nighttime residence is a public or private place not meant for human habitation. Examples include a car, park, abandoned building, bus or train station, airport, or camping ground. As situations dictate, HCD can connect these people with emergency shelter, housing, or critical services that can provide them with urgent, non-facility-based care. So now that we know who is eligible for funding, let's see what activities are eligible. In other words, how can the street outreach component best help those in need? Assistance within the street outreach component can take numerous forms: engagement, case management, emergency health and mental health services, transportation, and services for special populations. Staff and overhead costs directly related to carrying out street outreach activities are eligible as well. Of course, all street outreach projects funded through ESG must have proper policies and procedures in place because these projects are required to participate in their local continuum of care's coordinated entry process. This ensures that participants are connected quickly to the resources they need, including, but not limited to, ESG-funded permanent housing. Because coordinated entry is critical to moving many people from unsheltered homelessness to housing, projects should be part of the coordinated entry process to the maximum extent possible via their local continuum of care. More information is available from your coordinated entry leadership. All ESG-funded street outreach projects must also use their local HMIS to keep accurate data about all people served. Please consult the ESG program's HMIS manual or reach out to your HMIS lead for details. In closing, we encourage you to read the Street Outreach Policy, which sets out how HCD expects state-funded ESG street outreach to operate. You can also review the Street Outreach Client File Checklist, which details what HCD expects to find in every client file served by ESG Street Outreach Funds. You can find both documents on the HCD website, and you can learn more about ESG components in our other videos.
Thank you, Gio. We'll be switching back to our PowerPoint presentation here in a moment. And Amanda, just a heads up, I think I saw a question in the chat that we can put over into the Q&A.
Yes.
Just a reminder to everyone, there on your ribbon, if you're not familiar with Zoom, if you have Zoom, I'll put it up in front of you. If you look down or hold your cursor over it, there is a ribbon of different items. Q&A is one of them. Just click on that and you can type your question in there. As mentioned before, we prefer you not to put them in the chat as they often get lost in there and we lose track of them. So with that, Amanda, did you want to, well, never mind. We'll touch on it when we get to that section. And if you'll excuse me 1 second, I'm not sure if you can hear it in the background, but I have very loud birds. I'm going to go cover them. I'll be right back. Okay, thank you. Parakeets are a joy to have, but they can be a bit loud at times. Let's see, if you could go back a couple slides, Gio. Okay, there we go. The next slide. And okay, Spotlight Series on Street Outreach. And next slide. Okay, so here we go. So what is street outreach? It's designed to meet the needs of those experiencing homelessness in unsheltered locations. And it does so by providing funding for services designed for identifying people experiencing unsheltered homelessness, addressing emergency needs, and helping them return to housing by providing and/or referring them to services. Next slide, please. As per the ESG program interim rule at 24 CFR Part 576 for you policy wonks, street outreach funds may be used for the cost of providing essential services necessary to reach out to unsheltered homeless people. We want to connect them with emergency shelter, housing, or critical services, and provide urgent non-facility-based care to unsheltered homeless people who may be unwilling or unable to access emergency shelter, housing, or an appropriate health facility. Next slide, please. For the purposes of ESG street outreach, the term unsheltered homeless people means individuals and family who qualify as homeless under paragraph 1 or category 1 of the homeless definition provided on the HUD website, which includes, but is not limited to, living on the streets, in a park, or another place not meant for human habitation. Next slide, please. Street outreach eligible projects can include outreach and engagement, case management, emergency health and mental health services, transportation, services for special populations, and of course, staff and overhead costs directly related to carrying out street outreach activities. This is just a representative sample. You can find more information on the ESG webpage on the street outreach section. You can also find information on the HUD website. And, I would just put out there that we have several grantees doing very innovative things with their street outreach efforts. I'd like to point out that our Tahoe Coalition for the Homeless is a great source. I believe Kimberly's out of town for a couple of weeks, but should you ever need some guidance there from a provider on the ground, just reach out to Kimberly and she can provide a lot of assistance. Next slide, please. So overall, ESG street outreach, it can play an essential role in providing those human-centered services to engage people experiencing unsheltered homelessness and help them connect with the appropriate resources, urgent care, mental health services, and so on. And it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's very unique to your region. And oftentimes street outreach is geared at folks who simply do not want to attend any type of service facility or be housed in a shelter. Next slide, please. So the requirements are very similar to the other ESG components. It's a standard across the board item that approved written policies and procedures, or PNPs. We'll touch on those in the next slide. In terms of the local coordinated entry system, I think we might have a question on this in the chat. I believe we addressed this, but projects are required to participate in your local continuum of care coordinated entry process to ensure that participants are connected quickly to the resources they need, including but not limited to ESG funded permanent housing. And because coordinated entry is so critical in terms of moving people from unsheltered homelessness to housing, projects should be part of the CE process to the maximum extent possible, working with your local continuum of care. They must also use the local HMIS to keep accurate data about all of the people served in the program. Next slide, please. So the street outreach policies and procedures, the HUD requirements are pretty strict on this one and pretty detailed. Kind of goes over what I just discussed about the coordinated entry integration. That's very vital to this program, ESG program component. And in terms of participant eligibility, your policies and procedures must detail how your agency establishes and documents participant eligibility. It must also acknowledge that, as required by the ESG program interim rule, that lack of third-party documentation must not be a barrier to enrollment in the ESG street outreach projects. Once again, there's a lot more information on this in the street outreach section of our webpage, including checklists and a policy manual, as well as the ESG subrecipient manual, which has a good section on this as well. Your suite of services, you must define the full suite of services that your agency will be providing per project, and it may only include activities eligible for street outreach projects, as stated in the ESG street outreach policy. And you must also have a process for assessing each participant's individual strengths and the barriers to their housing, and then having an individualized case management plan that incorporates those strengths and their housing barriers to quickly return the participant to a safe and stable permanent housing environment. Staffing pattern, you must detail your project staffing pattern, including the estimated size of the outreach staff and their associated job duties, a process for entering the participant data in the local HMIS system in an accurate, timely manner. And for additional guidance on specifically for California HCD ESG projects use of HMIS, please see the ESG HMIS manual for our participants and our subrecipients that is available on our ESG webpage. And finally, housing problem solving. The the policies and procedures must detail how the project will provide the following housing problems, including standard interventions and record-keeping requirements. It must provide diversion services to all participants who will experience homelessness that first night, and how you contact them, how you're going to document that, how are you going to offer services, what are the suite of services. As I mentioned, it's pretty detailed, and we're happy to work with you on this if you're new to the program. But there, as mentioned, there is a whole plethora of information available on our website and resources to help you achieve these elements in your policies and procedures. Next slide, please. So best practices. Provide services at a central location or in a place where people experiencing unsheltered homelessness live and gather. This can include service facilities or out in the field. As mentioned earlier, one size doesn't fit all with street outreach. It's going to vary depending on your region. So in terms of best practices, you go to where the unsheltered homeless are. And that's just, most of them are not going to want to be near a homeless shelter. Also, identify, find out where they're at, provide services, and get them back to permanent housing as quickly as possible. The best practices are aimed at returning people to safe, stable housing in the most direct way possible. We want to state that the goal isn't to get people in a shelter. For street outreach, the goal is not to get people into a shelter. Shelter is more of an emergency response for those who want it. Not everyone wants it, and it isn't a substitute for permanent housing. Just a little caveat that we like to throw in there. Next slide, please. So street outreach in practice, what does it look like? Or what are some guiding principles for the process? Housing first. Always going to be housing first principles. You just have that immediate focus on safe, stable housing tonight. If you're out there conducting street outreach, or ASAP, a housing-focused case management approach, and a participant-driven assistance. As mentioned several times in this presentation, street outreach really is going to deal with folks who may not want to have anything to do with a shelter or traditional emergency responses to homelessness. So to the best of your agency's ability, determine what participants need, want, and will engage with, and then provide it. Try to avoid the preconceptions about one right way to take care of each individual experiencing unsheltered homelessness. Staff readiness and support is a big one. The onboarding and the ongoing training that you have with your staff and your street outreach staff, defining the core competencies necessary for your region. It's a unique animal, the street outreach. For those of you who participate in it, you know that. And also a crisis response and resolution approach. We're not there to judge necessarily in terms of street outreach. We're there to help. And all of you know this, but it is one of the foundations of street outreach. Essential services and partnerships. Yes, did I have something there? Oh, I thought I heard something. Essential services and partnerships, access to shelter and other emergency services, healthcare, application assistance for benefits, domestic violence services, etc. More details and more extensive details are available on our website in the Street Outreach Manual. And then finally, progressive engagement and assistance. That means being engaged with the unsheltered homeless participants throughout the process from beginning to end. A progressive program and system engagement, supporting choices made by program participants is applicable. Next slide, please. And here we have some resources that are available on the ESG webpage, and the links are here. We have a street outreach policy document. We have a street outreach client file checklist. And then we have our overall ESG subrecipient program manual, which covers this comprehensive overview of the ESG program and the requirements, both federal and state requirements. But it also has sections for each specific component that are very helpful, and street outreach is included. It is on the ESG webpage under the resources tab. And as I mentioned, this was going to be a short and sweet presentation. So next slide, please. we are at the Q&A section. And Amanda, I'm going to turn it over to you. And as I just now glanced at the chat, looks like it's been pretty busy over there. So hopefully those questions were migrated to the Q&A.
They aren't really questions. There was one from Veronica about understanding HMIS expectations of street outreach projects, and we got that answered because Teddy Pierce, who I'm a big fan of, because we go back many, 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 many years. Hopefully she remembers me so I don't sound like a weirdo. But anyway, she posted that it looks like the Alliance to End Homelessness came out with some information. So in the chat, there's a lot of information in the chat about HMIS and street outreach. So if anyone has any problems, I would go here and check it out because Teddy knows HMIS like no other person that I know of. So anyways, check it out.
Excellent.
And then
Actually, can I
see.
add a little context too? It's just a little bit. It's to remind you that with street outreach, we do understand that you're not always collecting information. You're responding to somebody in the streets, on a one-to-one basis as much as possible. You may not be able to collect the information that you want. They may not want to. They may not even want to give it to you when you're out in the streets. So the idea with the HMIS is to participate with your community as much as you can, be engaged in your community. If you cannot get the information and have the ability to report to HMIS, do what you can. We want you to report like the numbers of people that you've interacted with, but you may not be able to get real information, and that's totally fine.
And just as a bit of overkill, Veronica, I just posted the link to our YouTube page, which contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos on HMIS. And it has everything from overviews to eligibility and allowable costs by component, including street outreach, and everything in between. So not that any of us have any spare time, but should you have 5-10 minutes, I would recommend clicking on that link and finding a video that is applicable to your region, your question. And I think you might find some good resources there. And just a heads up for everyone, ESG staff, we look at these videos all the time. It's hard to keep. This is a lot of information. We have to keep a lot of information on all these components. And we have HUD, we've got California, we've got all kinds of different regulations that we have to be aware of. So we view these videos all the time. They were put together by our consultants that we had for a couple of years that work as the HUD TA team for ESG. So it's straight from the source. And it's a very valuable source of information. We recommend you get on it and just kind of dig through when you have questions on ESG.
So the only other question, Anthony, is Eva asked, can you put the link in those link to the resources for HMIS and client street outreach just mentioned in the video?
Sure, let me get there real quick. I'm on the ESG webpage right now. Let's see. First, I'm going to click on all of the YouTube videos for street outreach, and I'm going to put that in the chat right now. And there are, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos there. And those are for the visual folks. And now I'm going to go to the resources tab on our page and pull up the links for the street outreach. And I'll pop them in. You guys don't mind me watching me work on my computer here. Always a fascinating part of office hours, yes? Let's see, here's one. That's the checklist. And now I'm going to put the street outreach policy. And let's see, is that everything checklist? And then the actual, the policy checklist. And Yeah, I think that's everything. And a comment for Veronica. Yes, the YouTube page has evolved. We have added a lot of videos there. They're really, I mean, I can't stress it enough. I go on it all the time. It's just a great source of, all of the training that we provided over the last 2.5, 3 years. It's condensed there, and it's been organized into by component. You can pick a component that, maybe you're not awarded. Maybe you've never been awarded anything other than emergency shelter or street outreach, and you can just focus on those videos. And so it's a great source. Highly recommend. And was that it, Amanda?
Yep, that's all the questions right now.
I knew it was going to be a short and sweet one today. Street outreach is just a unique animal. Next slide, please. And so, continuing with the theme of resources, we have our ESG webpage here. And you can go there, and just go into the tabs, resources tabs, trainings tabs. You can find it's a wealth of information. We also have our program team contact for general questions, or if you can't reach your rep, you can send it to the ESG NOFA inbox, monitored Monday through Friday during normal business hours. Next slide, please. And as always, follow us on social media. Always got to put our little plug in this modern age. Old fogies like me, even I get on social media to check things out sometimes. So, next slide, please. And please take a look at our site sometime. If you know someone who's interested in a career and the mission we have at HCD for providing housing and ending homelessness here in California, have them check our site out. We are hiring, and we're always looking for good people. And I can't remember the name that you said, Amanda, but maybe we should put in a plug for her to join as an HMIS expert.
Yeah, Teddy Pierce.
And I believe that is the end of our slides for this session. We will be returning in 2 weeks, and we will be beginning a new series. We just wrapped up a series on the ESG components, and we will be moving on to more of a best practices grant management type of approach that's going to lead a series that will lead into the finalization of our standard agreements. So we're kind of giving you a headway into the standard agreements, how to manage those, what's different, best practices. We may even highlight a few of our grantees, as we do have some really good grantees out there who are doing some amazing things. And we always want to highlight your efforts. It's a great peer sharing activity. So we will be focusing on that over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Actually, it's going to be longer than that. Remember, 4 to 6 sessions. And with that, we hope you all have a great Wednesday, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks so much.